Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel. Globally, it's about masking losses of the most important resource on our planet. Food crisis inbound. 25% of adults eating cold meals to save on power in the UK. Europe's energy inflation, wait till it catches up to September. Dutch vegetable producer suspends production. Electricity too expensive. Gotta be excuses. Greedflation for Canada. More excuses US. High trade tariffs. Speaking of shrimp, Gulf of Mexico, let's look at the landfall hurricanes. July 2022, all that silver being spilled out into the public. Oh, it continues through August. NWO with all the different places on the planet labeled. Homogeneous cirrus. Man-made cloud. And starting you right here, Epoch Times putting out a huge article about the coming food crisis, how to prepare for it. Well, getting food would be a way to prepare for it. Because as it looks across the world right now, almost all the distractions we're seeing geopolitically, economically, are to disguise the loss of this. Jet streams, cloud cells moved. This is not going to be as abundant. Food prices up. Society shifts when that happens. Governments are going to respond, obviously. Let's look at the headlines. Coming off Bloomberg and Kashmir Crown. Mexico to halt some food exports. To curb soaring inflation, which means resource nationalism. China restricts exports of corn starch. Yeah, they have huge losses over there. Massive drought. India restricting sugar exports. Remember, you could call this resource nationalism. Also, following the wheat export ban, Malaysia banning chicken, and now India is starting to restrict exports of rice. And you might think, okay, well, that's just exports. Wait a minute. Dutch vegetable producer HAK going to stop food production for 6 weeks. This is definitely going to extend as the electricity prices continue to be elevated. Their factories can't run. It's too expensive. So digging into the article here, vegetable and legume, i.e. bean, company HAK, they're going to stop production. Bottom paragraph, it's not only the high price, but also the uncertainty. They're citing €3 per cubic meter for gas, but they don't know what January, February holds, so they're going to say, we're stopping it right now. Which is what a lot of companies are doing at the moment. So take a guide from what the largest companies in the continents are doing. And if you think this will not affect your life or availability for food or what's available on the shelves, you're going to have to look at it in that way. Don't think of it as just, oh, energy prices are high, so that all the copper, zinc, aluminum, and steel smelters across Europe have stopped and shuttered. Don't think about it like that. Think about it as the lids, the bottles, the cans that are not going to be available to them put food in, or those factories, as you saw with HAK, that decided just to shut. They're not guaranteed an electrical supply. So now all these factors are starting to add in way beyond what's not being grown in the fields and the massive losses across the Northern Hemisphere. We are going to transit into this year without a summer happening in the Southern Hemisphere this year. And all these things, when you mix it up and stir it up, it's just bad news for humanity. So looking at Europe's energy inflation, now this is the latest chart I could find, was back in July of 2022. Wait until we get to September figures after it went through that super spike. These things will not be 65%. They'll be well above 100. So this is a year-on-year change. So if you look at July of 2021 to July of 2022, how much is the average person, the average factory paying in addition to what normally was? So can you pay 65% extra in your energy bill? How about 80? That's doubling almost. And that's really low in comparison to what happened in September when things went up 10x, 12x, 18x. Before we start, just a quick word from our sponsor. It's true carnage in the stock market, unlike anything we've seen. The average stock is down 41.7% from its 52-week high. More interest rates are expected. Meanwhile, gold is down only 8%. So it's proven to be a source of protecting wealth and a hedge against inflation. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has a no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver, and you may qualify for the No Fee for Life IRA. On qualifying rollovers, give them a call, 888-546-7020 to get your free investor guide today. And now on with the video. So over to the Eurozone, inflation, look at Estonia and Lithuania, Latvia, well above 20%. Now these are official figures. If you look at shadow stats, it's going to be far higher than this. They're putting US inflation at 28%, but the official is around 8%. So you see this across the world. How long do you think companies can continue to buy and then pack food for you with these price increases at these levels? Let's bring it back down into the household. A quarter of adults with at least one child under 18 have also cut back on food shopping. This comes out of The Guardian. This is in the UK. 28% also reduced the quality of food they're purchasing. This is an ultra-developed nation. And you see that eating cold meals to save on power as the cost of living crisis bites. Not acceptable at all. In this day and age, with all the connectivity we have, this is for sure a planned collapse. And the bottom paragraph is stunning. UK households and fuel poverty is going to increase from 4.5 million up to 6.7 million, and that's going to continue upward. And as we see in every chapter of history, once the food price gets too high, like we're starting to see right now, there's revolts on the streets, which in turn topple governments, and then we see this reset of monetary activity, economics, value, for a better term. Governments shift, and then the population migrates. Well, those are the three fingerprints of the grand solar minimum, and it looks like they're all in play everywhere on the planet right now. So this is a slow motion rollout of what we've seen about every 400 years on the reset cycle. It's just the beginning of it, really going to get intense through the winter. And as food prices escalate and energy not available, the geopolitics will turn into street movements across every nation, even in the States, that it's going to happen here. So get ready for it. We can all prepare for these events. It's going to take a little preparation, and as long as you did that little bit, minimal amount of preparation, then you should be able to at least make it through to the springtime where you can start planning your own food. And coming right along with this is companies being super cheap again. Kmart, Kohl's, Woolworths, Walmart, and the bevy of others. The self-checkout thing, people are getting really annoyed with it now because almost exclusively self-checkout now, and I've seen this across stores even in East Tennessee. A person's story here, the last time they were shopping, they were forced to go through the self-checkout. And then, well, we need to check your bag and make sure you didn't not do it right. Well, you know, I'd walk out the door too. I didn't get trained formally to do this, nor did this person. So if you're going to rely on the public to go ahead and scan every item, well then, you know what? If there's a mistake, then that's on the store. They need to put the people back at the registers again, not make you work for free. Spend 10 minutes of your time doing something else that would have been another person's job. Replaced by robot, but it doesn't look like a robot. So another excuse here, Canada got to explain away the runaway inflation, runaway food prices, unavailability. Here we go. Greedflation is the explanation. Right off the CBC, inflation's making Thanksgiving dinner more expensive. Oh, it's greedflation, double-digit inflation. It's those greedy companies. Corporate greed, price gouging. Not really. Your greedflation is endless money printing, doubling the full amount of money in circulation in just 2 years. United States, guilty. EU, guilty. Everybody runaway inflation. Don't shift the buck elsewhere. Massive inflation, you printed too much money. Now see, the US is trying to explain away why all the fish and seafood products are so expensive suddenly. US seafood industry reeling from high tariffs and inflation. Again, we come back to the money printing. High tariffs, hey, that's on us. 65% of the estimated 6.3 billion pounds of seafood is re-imported. A move which saves U.S. companies about 80 cents per pound when they send it to another country, pack it, and bring it back, because they don't want to use the American labor to do that. Send it to a Chinese processing plant, kick the American worker to the curb. And then we see it with the shrimp industry as well. But when a 25% tax duty is slapped on Chinese imports, that suddenly doesn't make dollar-wise sense. And now some of the seafood shipments re-imported are now being hit with import duties of up to 45%. So hopefully this will turn the clock back and let's put the American workers back in place, because the outsourcing, it's done. And then yesterday's video about a 75% plunge in trans-Pacific and ocean-going traffic globally, that import, import, that doesn't work any longer. So we're going to have to start relying on our own labor pool of our own nations again. I know companies don't like to do it and pay a fair wage, but you know what? They're going to have to. And speaking of strange anomalies, Ian, the biggest one ever, it never gets as big this late in the season in such a rare place, and there was the endless stories about how rare this storm was this late in the season at this category 4. Didn't reach category 5, but then if we just look back from the National Hurricane Center's own data of category 4 and 5 landfalls, it doesn't really seem out of place to me during that time of the year now, does it? And we'll stay right here with Colorado State University pulling also NOAA data. Thanks, Chris Martins, for putting this one together. Hurricane frequency 1980 to 2021. Wait a second, that way over on the right side is where we are. 2022 would be lower than that because there's far less named storms. We only got into the I's, or maybe the J's by now. I'm doing the video. But also something coming out of nothing. Homogeneous cirrus. I'm not even making this up. Man-made cloud. They have to explain away what these checkerboards are in the sky, and I thought, gee, I've seen that before. It doesn't have to per se be a checkerboard. Low altitude horsetails coming out of that. I'm wondering what that is comprised of. So with all these strange anomalies happening, they want to block the sun. There's ideas to do that. We got geoengineering. Also, cosmic radiation management is another wing of geoengineering, where the particulates nullify charges of incoming cosmic rays. If they don't, they're going to ping through and have a 7x increase in different cloud layering, causing massive floods. You decide what you think it is. It's going to be A or B. But why are so few people looking to the skies and talking about this? Oh, they're glued to the next distraction as global food production collapses. And with that goes the economy. And something did just break here. And this one from Mike Maloney explaining that gold and silver used to track together on the paper trading, but something on September 8th broke. Now they're disconnected and the price correlation has been disrupted. And what's going on? Because if you want to look at the COMEX and the LBMA, that's the London Bullion Metals Exchange, COMEX here in the US, the amount of silver registered and eligible. Registered means it can flow out the floor. Eligible, it's still in the warehouse there, probably owned by an ETF or private. But the outflows are staggering. Like that much silver leaving and not being replenished. And I thought, okay, let's see if we can get some ladder data. Brings us up through September of 2022. That July and August just keeps on trucking. Less and less available. And at the last count, rated about 1.1 billion ounces, but then the latest tallies below 900 million. And again, a lot of that is not available. It's owned by ETFs or private individuals, companies, etc. But then we look at the individual companies that are owning some of this, and the outflows are also staggering. Brinks and HSBC seem to be pulling the most out, but you can do your own research on that. In doing the research for this video here, I stumbled across this 2009 issuance, NWO 10 world regions, all numbered, all categorized, and look at the bottom, post change, 8th is 3 numbers in a row, 666. What is going on? The world burns. What do the numbers mean for each individual continent? In order of destruction, perhaps? I don't know, but you leave your comment to try to decipher that one, because how deep is the mud? It depends on who you ask, and it's truly the way we all transit through this. Obviously, the unprepared are going to be a little more affected. Minimal preparation will allow you to do and stay more secure during this time. And Ransom Godwin and myself talk about these issues every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Remember, Studio A. And we're also streaming across 8 different platforms if you want to join us there. Vigilante TV, Rumble on the Adapt 2030 channel, YouTube Mountain High Time, YouTube Mini Ice Age Conversations Podcast, Facebook Ransom Godwin, Facebook Mini Ice Age, LinkedIn David Dubine, Twitch David Dubine Adapt 2030, and Twitter Adapt 2030. 2 hours of uncensored content. Join us there. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.